Hello. So I've decided to basically record kind of weekly videos tracking my reading progress this year, 2025. So anyone that knows me personally knows that reading is my passion. I mean, it's more than a passion. It is a lifestyle. It's what I do. So I always say I work to read, right? Like I do all of my have tos so that I can do my want tos. And my want to is pretty much reading books. That's most of it, right? I always have a book with me, sometimes 2 or 3. It's simply the way I've always been from the time I was really, really, really young. But I've always wanted to track it, and I've never been very good at it. You know, a lot of people do those kind of 1 of 50 or 1 of 100 or 1 of 10, depending on what your goal is, and they keep track of it. And I mean, people ask me, what did you read last year? Because they know I'm always reading, and I usually cannot tell you because it's A, so many, and B, I didn't keep track of it. So that's one of my New Year's, I don't like resolutions, goals, is to track my reading for myself so that I can remember what I read, and so that if anyone asks me, I have something to look back on. So I decided to make weekly videos talking about my reading that week. I would say I average 1 to 2 books a week. It really varies based on length, based on how much I liked it. The more I like something, the faster I read it, and I am a very fast reader. So it really just depends on that particular week also, and how busy I was that week with other things. So this is the 3rd week of January when I'm recording this video, and I'm on my 3rd book, so that makes sense. So for this video, I'm actually going to share the books I've read up till now, because again, I'm trying to catch up, and I should have started this earlier, but didn't think of it until today. And also, I'll talk about in the 2nd book I read, there was actually a line in it that inspired me to go ahead and make this video. And the line was, you need to do things for yourself. It's not about how many likes you get. It's not about whether anyone else cares or watches it or is interested. It's for you, right? And so if it's passionate, right, if you enjoy it, that's all that matters, right? That's what life is. And yes, I have lots of dogs, and they're always making a noise, and it's impossible to stop it unless I stop the video and go and tell them to be quiet. Let me pause it for a second. Okay, back. So the first book I read for the new year, which I felt was super appropriate, to start a new year, but also because everybody was talking about it and I had to know what it was all about. And that is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbin. This book, it's one of those that, there's a reason everyone's talking about it. It was sort of life-changing for me. And I've recommended it to so many people already, and I will recommend it to basically anyone I ever meet and see if you, not even just if you like self-help books, but if you just, want a new way of thinking about things, this is incredible. And it seems a lot of it is sort of common sense, but I find that sometimes some ideas we need drilled into us over and over and over again, right? Like you can never be told enough. Let them. And one of the fun things in the beginning of the book is it shows there's just pages of pictures of tattoos that people have gotten of Let Them. And I get it. Like after reading this book, I want one. It's just because of that reminder, right? I can see why people have done it. It's really powerful stuff. And it's basically that concept of, you cannot control other people. And boy, are we bad at believing that, right? All of us. Parents and children, spouses, siblings, friends, colleagues, all of us have this idea that we are in a lot more control over our life as well as others than we really are. And I think, at best, we have a little control over ourselves. And sometimes not even that, but a little bit. But that's the only place we have any control is in our responses, right? And the way we react to things, the way we respond to other people. But we have absolutely no control over other people. And especially, particularly over adults, right? Obviously, children, when they're young, it's a little bit of a different story, which she talks about. But when it comes to adults, we have no control over what they do, what they think, what they feel. And even when we think we have control, we really don't. It's a mirage, right? It's a false sense of control, and it's damaging, and it's devastating to relationships, and it's unrealistic, and it creates expectations that are just so toxic, right, for ourselves and for the other people that we are trying to control. And so this idea of let them do this, let them do that bad thing, let them say that thing, let them feel that thing, let go, and just let them be who they are. Let them be who they are. And you need to just be okay with that. And what matters is then let me, she says the second piece is let me respond. Now, obviously, she's not saying let people walk all over you, let people treat you terribly. Because the let me piece means you have also the ability to walk away, right, from things that are not healthy, from people who are not good for you. You have that control in how you respond. So it's really powerful. It seems common sense, like, oh, I should have known that, right? I should know that I can't control other people and that the only thing I can control is my response to them. But my goodness, remembering that is incredible. It's just kind of mind-blowing. And so I've been trying to put it into practice already, and I think it's going to be a lifetime practice. It's especially that idea, like, you need to love people as they are, right? And, again, if they're toxic, if they're not right to be in your world, you have the ability to walk away from that. That is your response. But you can't change them. Don't try. Don't think you can. And accept who they are. And you can model. One of the things she says in there that I really liked is you can model the behavior that you're wishing or wanting. I mean, you can certainly model it. But that's the key, right? Certainly don't talk the talk if you can't walk the walk. But also, when you're modeling that behavior, you have to do it without expectation. You can't do it because you want them to change. You have to do it for you, right? Because it's what's good and healthy and right for you. And maybe this person who you were kind of hoping would follow along with you, maybe they will, but maybe they won't. And you have to release that. You have to be okay with that. And so in a way, it's really, it's just a great lesson about how to release what's not good for you. Because believing that we can control other people's behavior is definitely not good for us because we simply can't, right? It's an uphill battle that you're never going to win. So anyway, such a good book to start the new year with or to read anytime. Highly, highly, highly recommend for every single human being on the planet because we are all of us guilty of it, no matter the relationships we have. And we all need to get better at it. We all need to work on it. And that's like a lifetime goal. So that was my first book. Loved it. Second book, which I just finished reading this morning, is called What If You Are the Answer? And it's Rachel Hollis's new book. I don't know if any of you have followed her. I was really, really a big fan of hers when she kind of first came out, Girl Wash Your Face. I followed her story for a long time. My mother and I went to one of her Rise conferences. We were really big fans, and she's gone through a lot, obviously, that some of you may or may not be familiar with if you're not familiar with her work, but her life has changed dramatically in the last few years. And what's fun about this book is she talks about those changes within it, and it's really, those changes have altered her approach and the way she views things, and I really like the changes. I can relate to them, I should say. She and I are the same age, for one, so we have kind of some similar life experiences. We've gone through some similar things. She's gone through things I haven't, and vice versa. But that's also interesting, to read about. I mean, she has a lot of kids. I do not have kids, but we have both been divorced. And we've both kind of found love again, gone through that. So, but she approaches this kind of from questions. She's asking some really interesting questions. And rather than attempting to answer them, because she's gotten to the place, which I think most over 40s do at some point. I know I have. The older I get, the more I realize that I don't know anything and never will. You know what I mean? There's a humility that life kind of brings to you, I feel like. And if you don't have that humility, you probably need it, because I think we all do. But I think life has brought her some humility, and I really like what that has, kind of the style that's brought out of her. So she asks these questions, but she doesn't attempt to answer them definitively. Instead, she looks at them as questions that we carry forever and that we're constantly needing to be curious about, and look at our lives at every different stage, and how we can interact with that question at different points in our life. And I really appreciated that, because that's certainly how I feel about it, that questions are so powerful, and it's so important to be curious, and it's so important to kind of reevaluate at every stage of life, these same ideas and these same questions. And so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done, and it was, it made me think. It was super, again, she and I are at a similar stage in life, so those similarities were also interesting and fun to think about. But the questions that she's asking are really questions for any age, for any experience level. It's just, how you interact with those questions may be different, based on what you've gone through. But the questions themselves are kind of eternal, right? And so I really like her journey, and I can relate to it, and I'm sure other people can too. So highly recommend. What if you are the answer? And that's a good question too, right? Because again, kind of tying back to that first book, the only thing you can control is you. So you are the answer for yourself. So really important. They did kind of have some similarities and some tie-in, and I think that's why I was attracted to those books at the beginning of the year. And I do read a lot of nonfiction. I will say I do read some fiction. And as I make these weekly reminder book videos, you'll see that I do make some, I do read some fiction, but I read a lot of nonfiction. And I read a lot of memoirs. I read a lot of self-help. I read a lot of different types of topics. I don't really have just one kind of book that I'm interested in. So it just depends on my mood. The book that I am currently reading, or just started today. Here's the thing. As soon as I finish a book, I start a new book. I can't stand to not be reading a book. So, I usually, when I get down to like the last couple chapters of a book, I have my next book already waiting. I'm taking it with me everywhere because I don't know when I'm going to finish. And I'm just like that. I can't stand to not be reading something. So usually I have stacks. My husband can tell you there are books everywhere. I have stacks that I've already read. I have stacks that I'm currently reading. And I have stacks that are waiting to be read, because I can't stand the idea of running out of books. It makes me absolutely, that's a neuroses that I have, is a book addiction for sure. So my current book, The Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan. And I just started it, and already I think it's going to be really fun. For one, she's a fantastic author, whose books I've read in the past, whose fictional books I've read in the past. This is fun because this is a memoir, but it's a memoir with kind of a topic, right? It's kind of looking at the natural world, looking at books, and I know she's going to be connecting this to larger life lessons, but it's also, about connecting to nature in your own space. And I really like that concept. And where I live, we have a lot of birds. So I think that's part of the reason I was interested in what her experience was going to be with this, because I have bird feeders. I love watching the birds where I live. I love watching, we have raccoons and squirrels and foxes, and I just really, really enjoy watching them. And so that's a fairly new, I mean, I've always loved nature, but watching them is not something I've always had the opportunity to do everywhere. I mean, I was raised on a farm, but we didn't necessarily, I didn't see these things every day. You know, now we have Ring cameras and you can kind of spot more critters than I used to be able to. And so it's a lot of fun. But anyway, so we'll see. I will, in my next video, when I talk about what I thought about this at the end of it, I will make my comments. But I love that she's a she draws. So the book illustrations in this are hers. And one thing in the introduction that I've already read that I thought was really cool is, even though she's always liked to draw, she decided to take drawing lessons for the first time at the age of 64. I guess in preparation, or as she was, I mean, I'll learn more, but as she was kind of going down this journey of watching the birds in her backyard, and she wanted to draw them, and she took lessons. And I love that. And I love that she was 64 when she did it. Again, I can already tell this is going to be one of those books that's like, it's never too late. You know, here she was already a successful author, but here she's wanting to do something new and different, and added to her writing is also drawing. And I love it. I love it. I think we all need to have that appetite, right? To try new things at every age, and never ever, you know, think it's too late to learn something new, because it's not. And so I'm excited. I'm excited to read this. And then we'll see what comes next. We'll see next week. But here's where I'm at now. All right. That's it for now.